What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to BST. It is currently 3:02 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm sure you guys will be watching this in the morning. It's going to be a long night, but we're here to talk football. I want to talk about the Raiders-Cowboys game, do the power rankings, and we'll get to the Jamar Chase situation later on in the episode. But I wanted to start off by saying the NFL has got to figure out getting some better games in primetime because we have been on kind of a stretch here where it's just not been great. And this week especially, you had Jets, Patriots, and Lions, Eagles on paper is a good matchup. Two of the top NFC contenders, but it was just a really sloppy game. And now you got this game where the Cowboys just thump the Raiders, controlled the entire game. It was not even close. So that's where I'm kind of at right now. It's like for people like me who work on Sundays, you don't really get to watch any of those games until Sunday Night Football. That's when you get your fix of football is on these primetime games. And you want to see some good matchups. And I do think there is value in having some really good matchups in like the 225 slot on a Sunday, but I speak for anybody who works on a Sunday. There's a lot of people out there who can't watch those games. And I just really wish the NFL had a little bit more power in flexing some of these games around just so we could see some better football in primetime. And I get it. There's a whole situation with the ticketing stuff because if people are going to games, they can't just they can't just flex them on a week-to-week basis because people have flights, they have hotels, they have their whole trips planned out to go to games at a certain time. So I get all that. It's a complicated process. But I do think there is value in the NFL putting better teams and better matchups in primetime games to grow the game and just give people a more enjoyable experience. And it's been a few weeks now since we've seen some really good football in primetime. But I'm sure come July when there's no football on and like baseball, it's in the heart of the baseball season, we'll be yearning for a game like this on a random Monday night or a random Thursday night or something. So let's just enjoy it while it's here. But let's hop into this game. Cowboys 33, Raiders 16. Obviously, heavy hearts in the building. First game since the Marshawn Kneeland tragedy. So the Cowboys played inspired, and it felt like that from the start of the game. And that kind of set the tone. And they got out to an early lead, and they never looked back. And so that was kind of the one storyline that I was watching for. But secondly, and not to say more importantly, but just to look at the football side of things, the acquisition of Quinnen Williams. What would he do to this defense? And he was phenomenal tonight. Next Gen Stats has him tracked for 5 pressures, had 1.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss. I mean, he was all over the place. And I'm not going to overreact because the Raiders' offense is atrocious. They are horrible. They are very, very bad. So I'm not going to say, oh, the Cowboys' defense is back. This is a good defense. I'm just not going to say that because the Raiders have been really bad offensively all season. They had 27 total yards rushing. But what we do know about the Raiders is their run blocking is atrocious. It's bad. It's horrible. So is this a good performance by Dallas's defense? Sure. But is it also just what we've seen from the Raiders this season offensively? Yes, that's also true. I mean, Ashton Denty, 6 carries for 7 yards. You drafted this guy 6th overall, or 7th overall, whichever it was, and you don't have a line to block for him. Like, they are god-awful. They are a really, really bad unit. And you signed Geno Smith to some decent money. Yeah, you trade for him. You send a pick. You sent a pick to Seattle for this guy. And he's garbage. You really have no wide receiver threat. You traded away Jacoby Myers. Your 2 rookies, Besh and Thornton, I'm not going to say they're busts yet, but they really don't have a big impact in this game. Your best player is Brock Bowers offensively, and he can only do so much at tight end. So the offense is screwed. And it's being led by a man in Chip Kelly who I've seen rumors now they want him to take over the head coaching spot and move forward with this team. No. We've seen that experiment before. We've seen it. I don't know what the fascination was with Chip Kelly in the first place, to be honest. He was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, and they had a pretty kind of middle of the pack offense for the first half of the year, turned it on in the playoff, and won the national championship. And now he's here in Las Vegas. And I don't see the appeal there. And it feels like it's Pete Carroll's last season in Las Vegas regardless. But Chip Kelly ain't the play, guys. He ain't. So when you look at this team, the O-line sucks. The defense sucks, besides Max Crosby, who's an unbelievable player. You have pieces on offense, like Genty and Bowers, but you don't have the quarterback. There's a lot wrong with this team. There is. And they dropped to 2-8, and they have been really bad this season. And I thought Pete Carroll would deliver some stability, and we just really haven't seen it from him. And they played some close games. I mean, they nearly beat the Broncos a week ago. They could have easily won that game. They stuck in there, but it's just really bad in Las Vegas. So if I'm looking at the Cowboys defense, it's one of those games where this is a good building block, but I need to see you do it consistently for me to believe this is a new trend. So I'm not going to jump into any conclusions there. But Quinnen Williams was a monster tonight. That is true. That is very, very true. So right now it's looking like a very great trade for Dallas. And I believe they got Overshown back tonight. And he's just a playmaker. Yep, DeMarvion Overshown was back tonight, had a tackle for loss. That's a big piece of their defense. And for Dallas, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They've kind of dug themselves in too deep of a hole. The NFC is really good. You're not going to win your division with Philly. So I just don't think it's in the cards for them to make the playoffs this year. And if we just look offensively, I mean, they were phenomenal. And again, Raiders defense sucks. But Dak, 268 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. We've seen this version of Dak this year that is MVP level. And then we've seen him kind of take some dips where it's not quite there. But then he shows back up again, and he's playing some of the best football in his career at times. And they seem to have somewhat of a rushing threat in Javonte Williams for cheap. So the pieces on offense are there. It's just been about this defense all season. They can't do anything. And George Pickens looks like the acquisition of the offseason at this point. I mean, if you look at what the Steelers did, they decided to sign a guy for $30 million in DK Metcalf, who is pretty one-dimensional. He can run a go ball, and he can run like a slant route. Of course, that's a rough generalization of him. He can do other things, but those are what he does well. And even on contested catches, he's been beat multiple times this year. George Pickens might be the best contested catch guy in the league at this point. In this game, 9 catches, 144 yards, 1 touchdown. He was unbelievable. But I do think it puts you in a weird predicament. Do you pay Pickens? Because if you pay Pickens, you're following dangerously in the same path as the Cincinnati Bengals. If you think about the Cincinnati Bengals, I do think Dallas has a better O-line. But like a quarterback, you're paying a ton of money. I do think Burrow's better than Dak. You kind of have a running back room that's nobody's getting paid a bunch of money, but I do think like Javonte has had a really good season and could be good moving forward. But then you're paying 2 wide receivers top money, and I do think Pickens has earned Probably not quite what CD's making, but it's close. He's played very, very good this year. And when CD was out, Pickens stepped up big time. And this has been one of his best weeks. And I'm pretty sure since CeeDee Lamb has returned, George Pickens has outgained CeeDee Lamb in yards. So I don't think it can be stated how well George Pickens has played this year. So you have those two, just like the Bengals have Chase and Higgins. We'll get to Chase later. And then you have kind of that one big playmaker on defense. And I think before it was Micah Parsons. Now it's Quinn Williams. And the Bengals had Trey Hendrickson. And I think Quinn Williams is a better player than Trey Hendrickson. But you're going down this path where you're paying a lot on offense if you pay him. And so it kind of puts him in a weird predicament, for sure. So I don't know where they go there, but I feel like at a certain point you have to pay Pickens because this guy is balling out. And wherever he goes in the offseason, he's going to ball out there because this guy's just a really good player who I don't think, quite frankly, has been used right in Pittsburgh. I think Dallas has finally figured out how to use him, and he's showing that he's worthy of being a wide receiver one somewhere. So Dallas ain't going to win anything this year. It's going to be interesting how they navigate the offseason, but you're starting to see some pieces move here. They have Green Bay's first-round pick. They have their own first-round pick. I think it would be in Dallas's favor to start losing some games. Not tank, but just get a better draft pick. Go try to get a player like Caleb Downs in the draft. A safety who will probably drop a little bit just because the NFL doesn't value safeties. But he has an argument to be the most talented, most NFL-ready player in the draft. So there's tons of edge rushers in the draft. So there is a great possibility that Dallas enters next year with a really, really good team. So I think if you're a Dallas fan, this season may be rough. You're 4-5-1, but be looking to next year. If you make the right moves this offseason, it's always a wild card with Jerry. I'll admit that. But if you make the right moves this offseason, you'll be cooking with gas. And like I said for the Raiders, it's a rough scene. I'm not even really sure where you go at this point for the Raiders. You gotta just trust the process, keep drafting and developing, but you're paying some guys like Max Crosby, and it's like, man, you're probably gonna waste the next 4 years of his contract or whatever it is, 4 or 5 years. So that's a tough reality. But when you don't have the quarterback, you don't have an O-line, it's hard to win in this league, and they don't have either of them right now. And the Geno Smith thing looks like an utter disaster. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover on this game. Like I said, in these games that are not the most engaging matchups, you just got to look at the different storylines here for each team. And it does, I will say, from the analyst perspective, it does give you a chance to see teams that you normally don't pay attention to. Like if this game was on a Sunday, I'm not going to be like talking about it because it's just not a good game to talk about. Like nobody really cares what happened in this game. But I think it does give you a good chance to see what both of these teams are about. And for Dallas, I think the future is quite bright. For the Raiders, I think the exact opposite. So, yeah, Dallas wins 33-16. Moving on. Let's get to the Bracken best for week number 12. We'll go 10-1. I'll show you the overview at the end. Let's start out. I will say, the honorable mentions, the Chiefs. The thing about it is they're 5-5, not great. But, I will say, let's stop acting like this loss to the Broncos was a horrible loss. It was a crucial loss, but that's only because they lost to the Jaguars earlier this season. They've dropped some games to some teams that you wouldn't have expected coming in. And that's why this game was so crucial. It really shouldn't have been, but they're 0-5 in one-score games. They were nearly undefeated last year. So that's kind of the key difference this year. And the defense isn't as good. They don't have a running game. I can't put them in there yet, but they're always dangerous. We know that as much. The Niners, an honorable mention. They're playing really good football. They got Brock Purdy back. At the end of the day, it's just the injuries for me. If they had Fred Warner, they had Nick Bosa. I mean, this team's just a different team, and I just struggle to put them at the top still. Like, even in the top 10, there's a lot of good teams, and I struggle to put them there with all these injuries, but if they keep winning and they keep proving me wrong, they're going to find themselves up there. And then the Bears. Thing about the Bears, I think they're winning a lot of one-score games, and that's just something that hasn't really happened in Chicago for a very long time, so you got to give them credit there. But I think their defense is atrocious. Their offense is kind of middle. I mean, the stats look good. Like, they're one of the highest scoring offenses. They move the ball on the ground very well. But I think just at the end of the day, you can't really trust them to be consistent throughout a game. But if they keep winning, and this is a tough stretch for them, but if they beat Green Bay, they beat Detroit again, obviously, like, they're going to move up. But I think those are kind of my 3 honorable mentions. I might be forgetting another team, but those are like kind of the 3 that I'm thinking of. But let's get into the actual top 10 here. At number 10, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are destroyed with injuries. I mean, you don't have Bucky Irving, you don't have Chris Godwin. Sean Tucker did step up against the Bills, but I'm not going to fault them, really, because like last week they lost to the Patriots. This week they lose to the Bills. Those are tough teams to play. So I'm not going to really fault them too much for losing in those games, and they battled both teams, and they just couldn't really get it done at the end. But I thought they battled the Bills. I mean, they were up by 1 in the fourth quarter of that game, and they were very close to beating the Patriots. So I think this is a really good team. Baker's playing well. I got him at 10. At number 9, the Green Bay Packers. Out of the top 10 last week, and I get it. It's a win against the Giants, but I thought Jordan Love played really well. With all the drops, his stat line doesn't look as great as it probably should have been. So I thought he played one of the, I honestly think he played one of the best games of his career. It is kind of clouded by really, really bad defense, or really bad drop, sorry. And I think all the underlying stats are there. They just got to put it together, do the little things right for 1 week, and I think they could show that they could really put a team down quickly. Will it happen? Who knows? But at this point, I do think they belong in the top 10. But they're going to have some big tests coming up against divisional opponents. At 8, the Detroit Lions. Again, you lose to a Philly team by 7 in the cold on the road. I'm not going to fault you a ton, but it was a little bit concerning to see how bad the offense played, but I do think their defense is playing really, really good football. So I'm not going to fault them too much for losing to the Eagles, and we've seen them play really good football at times this season. I still think they're the best team in the NFC North, even though Chicago leads the division and they're out of the playoffs currently. I do think they deserve a spot in the top 10 for sure. So I got the Lions at 8. At number 7, the Buffalo Bills. Big win over Tampa. Big bounce back win. You lose to Miami last week. Well, oh, God, voice crack. You lose to Miami last week. You come into this week, you play inspired football. Josh Allen looks amazing. He really is their entire franchise at this point. And he just put them on their back, took them to victory. And when that's a reality, they're a scary team. I do think they have flaws on offense, but at the end of the day, Josh Allen is going to Josh Allen. And that's why I have them here at number 7. At number 6, the New England Patriots. What a phenomenal season so far for Drake May and the Patriots. There's an argument they could be higher. I just think at the end of the day, I think the lack of weaponry on offense will come back to haunt them. Not come back to haunt them, but maybe just rear its ugly head at times. And Drake May has played lights out this year. I understand that, but I think there may be a time this year where they're like, man, we could just use that one more weapon. And it hasn't really happened so far. They've been able to make plays, but I think that time may come down the road. And their rush defense is elite, and their defense has played good this year, but I think they just really lack the star power outside of Drake May at this very moment, and Christian Gonzalez certainly in that conversation, along with what's the guy's name? Their interior defensive lineman they got from Philly. I think all those guys are very good players, and Drake May is bordering on an elite superstar at this point. So that's why I have them here at number 6. Number 5, the Indianapolis Colts. They've had a kind of rough 2-week stretch. They had their bye last week, but you squeak one out over Atlanta. You lose to the Steelers. But like I said, when I dropped them a little bit after the Steelers game, it's 6 turnovers. Probably not going to happen again. But I do think the concerning thing we saw with the Colts is their O-line wasn't pass blocking as well for Daniel Jones, especially last week. I think they had 7 or 8 sacks allowed. I mean, just really, really poor. But at the end of the day, their offense is the most efficient, the most explosive in the league. I mean, I think Jonathan Taylor is a huge part to their success this year. Should be considered for MVP. I just think the Colts are a good enough team and should be definitely considered to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl at this point. Just with what they have going on offensively, and if they can really lock in defensively with the acquisition of Sauce Gardner. So I got the Colts at 5. At 4, the Seattle Seahawks. Again, you lose to my number 1 team, I ain't going to drop you that far. And if we're going to be honest, the Seattle Seahawks defense played elite. And I think the only other game that we saw them play a true contender in the Buccaneers, they kind of got worked. But in this game, no. They played super elite defensively and shut down the Rams offense after going up 14-3. So that part is impressive enough to be a top 5 team. And we've seen this offense at times this year be absolutely dominant. And we saw them on Sunday struggle. But it's one game. Sam Darnold threw 4 picks. I get it. But I don't think I should overreact, place them at number 7 or something. This is still a very complete team. And the fact that they were even in that game, had a chance to kick the game-winning field goal, is impressive in and of itself. So I got the Seahawks here at number 4. Number 3, the Denver Broncos. One of the most impressive wins of the season by a team. Their defense is unstoppable. They don't even have their best player out there in Pat Surtain. Once they get him back, it's going to be unbelievable. I get it. You only beat the Chiefs, who aren't even in my top 10, by 3. But I just think we saw some things that raised question marks earlier in the season that were answered. Bo Nix, how would he play? I thought he played fantastic. And some of their receivers made a lot of plays. And it's kind of like similar to the Seahawks. This defense is super, super good. And that's what's going to carry them. But now they're firmly at the driver's seat for the 1 seed, certainly for their division. So they're going to have a run at the Super Bowl, but it's just going to be about if this offense can find consistency. But I got the Broncos at 3. At 2, the Philadelphia Eagles. You beat the Detroit Lions, and mostly what it's been over the past 2 weeks in the Packers victory and the Lions victory, it's been about this defense. Since acquiring Jalen Phillips, they have played really, really good defensively. And I think it's because they've just gotten some more pressure on the quarterback. I mean, we've seen Jalen Phillips be really dominant in this Vic Fangio defense before, and it looks like he's picked up right where he left off. And it's impressive to watch. And they've completely flustered Love. They completely flustered Goff. So to me, that's kind of all about the defense, similar to the Broncos, similarly to who else did I say that about? I'm forgetting already. Similarly to those, the Seahawks. The offense is shaky. I don't think Jalen Hurts is playing very good football right now. Saquon Barkley can't run the ball. The O-line is playing uncharacteristically bad. It's not great up there, but this defense is playing really good, and they're the defending world champions. So that's why I got them at number 2. And number 1, staying at number 1, is the LA Rams. I don't think there's another argument here. I said during the preview show, if you beat Seattle, you're the best team in the league. And if Seattle would have beat the Rams, they're the best team in the league. At the end of the day, that was the battle for the number 1 team in the league in the power rankings, in my opinion. So here they are. I think their offense had a pretty slow day against Seattle, but Seattle's defense is very good. I think they'll get that going. Honestly, I just thought they should have ran the ball more. They were up most of the game. Just run the ball, man. Run the ball, McVay. Because I thought Kyron played a phenomenal game. Had like 12 carries for 90 yards. So I think they need to do that more. But other than that, like the defense, it was bend but don't break, but they didn't break nearly at all. It was slightly concerning that the Seahawks were even in that game, to be honest. But I just really love what the Rams are all about. So that's why I got them at number 1. Let's look at this as a whole. Tampa, 10. Green Bay, 9. Detroit, 8. Bills, 7. New England, 6. Colts, 5. Seahawks, 4. Broncos, 3. Eagles, 2. And Rams, number 1. There you have it. The Bracken best for week number 12. All right, to end the show, I wanted to talk about the Ja'Marr Chase situation. Very interesting to say the least. So basically, it arose. I'm not sure which quarter it was in or what moment in the game it was, but basically they caught Ja'Marr Chase spitting on Jalen Ramsey, playing his day. They were kind of jawing back and forth, and Chase decides it's a good idea to spit on him. And I don't care who you are, who you're playing, what the guy says to you, spitting on a player is a no-go. We saw Jalen Carter earlier in the season do it and get ejected. And now Ja'Marr Chase is going to be facing a 1-game suspension, which is just brutal for my fantasy team. But nonetheless, that doesn't really matter. Just a stupid thing from Ja'Marr Chase. Just don't spit on a guy. It's not that hard. And he did send out an appeal saying if he really wanted to try and spit on Ramsey, he would have spit it at his face, not on his jersey or wherever it landed, because it certainly didn't hit his face. Gravity forced the spit down, hit his jersey. So certainly he could have spit right at his face, but I think that's kind of a lame attempt there from Ja'Marr Chase. Like, dude, you spit on the guy. You got to own up to it. So he's going to be suspended most likely. I doubt they get rid of the suspension. I don't really get the appeal there. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. The guy spit on the guy. He should be suspended. So an already porous Bengal season goes even further in the depths of despair. And Joe Burrow's going to come back for Thanksgiving, but it's just like, God, man, what a collapse. I mean, they were in a pretty good spot against the Bears and the Jets. You lose both of those games, and now, you really have no future. And I've seen people saying, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, are the Bengals going to trade Joe Burrow? We're saying no. There's a lot of people who think the Bengals should just sell the whole team. Get rid of Chase, get rid of Higgins, get rid of Hendrickson, get rid of Burrow, and just start clean, because they have built this team really poorly. They have built it from the outside in, not the inside out. And I am 100% a believer in building it from the inside out. You get the anchors on the O-line, the D-line, you pay those guys. And, even though Ja'Marr Chase is a great player, you can make up wide receivers in the aggregate a lot easier than you can make up offensive linemen in the aggregate. So they've just built from the outside in with Higgins and Chase and Burrow, who just gets destroyed by the O-line. And we saw Flacco struggle. So it's just kind of a disaster in Cincinnati in a year that you really thought you could make a run at the playoffs. And most people predicted they would. So it's just been a rough year for Cincinnati. But that's going to do it for me today. Not really much else to talk about. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll finally have the Triple J's in studio. All three of them, which is a shocking sight. Jock, Jason, and Jaden will be joining us on Thursday. So that should be good. Who even is the Thursday? Let me look this up real quick. Who is the Thursday night football game? Hopefully it's good, but I'm not going to get my hopes up because it hasn't been good. Bills Texans. All right, that could be an interesting matchup. Obviously, you have the Bills, high flying offense, horrible defense. You got the Texans, high flying defense, pretty bad offense. So should be an interesting matchup there. That's better, NFL. I applaud you. That one is better. But yeah, it's gonna do it for me. Please like, subscribe, comment. Go check out TikTok, Instagram. We're new on Instagram, can't talk. So please go follow that. You can check out YouTube Shorts as well. All those social medias. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your Tuesday, probably when you'll be watching this, or Wednesday or Thursday, or whenever it is that you're watching this. Enjoy. Please do enjoy. And I'll be seeing you in the next one. Have a great night. Goodbye.